integrity. Yes, audit is basically to check whether your laboratory is compliant with all the regulatory protocols. And these regulatory protocols are the ones that sets benchmarks on how you are supposed to practice. There are limits of your practice, and also safety in your practice, the safety of you as a personnel in the lab, the safety of your clients, those are patients, safety of people you work with, because we also deal with so many clients, not alone patients. We deal with the clinicians also who are our clients, because we share results with them. Their safety is based on maybe the results that you release, because for them, they have to practice safely. If you don't, as a medical lab scientist, you don't practice according to the set standards or according to the compliance that's needed of you, then your fellow clients who are clinicians who are working together are never going to practice safely, because their patients will be unsafe. They will face a number of problems, especially in their practice, because actually it will lead to the malpractice of the entire people you are serving, especially in the hospital settings. Audit identifies areas of improvement and ensures that laboratories are consistent with what they produce. What they produce, this consistency means what they produce is valid and reliable. So there are basically two major types of audit. We have internal audits. We have also external audit. We are going to look at each of them. Before we look at those two categories, we are going to look at the processes of audit. First of all, in audit execution, we're going to involve ourselves with internal teams. These are groups that we are going to involve in the execution of an audit. We have internal teams. We also have independent contractors. We also have regulatory bodies, accreditation organizations, and also customers. Laboratory audit typically arise in response to what triggers a laboratory audit. A laboratory audit can be triggered by certification cycle. Maybe you had a 1 year certification cycle or 2 year certification cycle. This cycle will be closed by an audit, and this closure will open to another cycle of certification. A laboratory audit can be triggered by critical quality incidents. Maybe a serious or adverse incident has occurred in your organization, and regulatory bodies are there behind you are on your back to check what happened. What happened that you fell into a certain kind of problem. You had a serious incident, especially in the quality service, lack of quality services to your clients, or serious situations occurred. Maybe you lost a patient, and the relatives have gone to court. There are issues that are all over the media that such an incident has happened, and now damage control is being faced by your organization. So this will trigger the onboarding of regulatory bodies. They will come and check and audit you. So we have also regulatory bodies complying to their mandates. These regulatory bodies have to comply to their mandates, that they have to audit regularly the institutions that they are serving, that are under them. So this one mandates them to regularly do an audit whenever they feel that there is a gap or there are gaps in the organizations that they deal with. Audits by regulatory bodies. We have laboratories that are subject to various audit requirements depending on the applicable standards and regulations. And these standards come from the institutions that I've listed here. We have ISO IEC 17025, ISO 15189, which we belong, and also we relate to ISO IEC 17025, which is for external checks, especially external compliance checks. Good laboratory practices is an institution, compliance standards that are required in good laboratory practice. Standards, there are standards prescribed under clinical laboratory improvement amendments. Those who are ACPI licensed know about clinical laboratory improvement amendments, CLIA, that is for the US. And also these standards also apply globally because these are global bodies, even if they originate from the US. There is also Joint Commission of International Accreditation, JCIA. We have also SANAS Accreditation Agency. We have KMLTTB, it's a regulatory body in our country. ISO IEC, for example, I'll give an example of ISO/IEC 17025. It's a body like KENAS, HUKAS, and yes, those are bodies that hold that responsibility for that ISO certification. Then we're going to look at how a typical laboratory audit looks like, and stepwise look at the processes that are involved therein. First of all, before we delve into an audit, we need to define the audit scope. What are our limits? That's what we need to ask ourselves. Then that is followed by selecting auditors. Then we plan for the audit. Initially, we need to conduct opening meetings. And in this, we need to review documents and records, observe laboratory processes, and identify and record findings. Then after that, we issue a report. Performing corrective action and preventive action follows, because the report will prescribe corrective actions and also preventive actions. Then if all is said and done, what follows up is closure. The loop for the audit is closed. So the audit process follows this. I'm going to explain bit by bit, stepwise, on this process of audit. To conduct a laboratory audit, an organization must follow a structured process to evaluate compliance with defined requirements. You need to identify nonconformities and ensure that integrity of laboratory operations is ascertained. There are 10 stages in laboratory audit performance, and these stages are listed below. First of all, as I've said in the previous slide, we need to define the scope of an audit. This scope contains objectives. So this will define which kind of an audit is. Is it an audit for regulatory purposes or a regulatory inspection? Maybe KMLTTB is inspecting a certain organization. What will that audit entail if it's an inspection audit? What about internal quality audit or third-party supplier audit? That scope or objectives are defined there in such an audit. Within that audit also, if it's a regulatory audit or internal quality audit or third-party supplier audit, you are going to define the audit scope. Then you need to identify the departments that you are going to audit in that organization. Yes, it's a regulatory inspection. There are things that you want to check in a certain department. Is it hematology department? Is it molecular biology department? Which is it the entire lab? Is it the entire laboratory as an organization? What are you going to check? So also this can entail the systems and compliance requirements that are involved there in that institution, in that department or an institution. Reference applicable compliance standards or regulatory framework directly in the scope, such as ISO IEC 17025 for general requirements for the competence testing and calibration laboratories, or GMP for quality control laboratories for testing medicinal products. Is it for ISO 15189? So that scope will also define which kind of audit that's being conducted. So after defining the scope, we need to select trainers and also train them, because you are going to train them on specifics. So these trainers, these auditors, sorry, they need to be independent in audit techniques. They need to be trained on findings, classifications. They need to be trained on regulatory requirements and also quality standards. The lead auditor should be engaged in sufficient inspection in the roles of observer and co-auditor to ensure that experiential competence. So these auditors who are selected have to be under somebody, have to be under a person who is senior and supervises them. And is senior because of experience, because of training, and because of the role that he plays or she plays in coordinating the audit services. After auditors have been trained, you need to have a meeting to develop an audit plan with the people who have been selected, the expertise who have been selected. Develop a comprehensive audit plan that includes objectives of the audit, the timelines. How long is the audit going to take place? Or what timelines will it cover? Is it 1 year or 2 years? So documentation over that whole period of 1 year or 2 years has to be put in check. The criteria is also defined. The team's responsibility. So in this, the chief auditor or the supervisor has to has to provide responsibility auditor on what he or she is supposed to do. This plan is shared with stakeholders, that is the institution that's being audited, and it has to include a follow-up on previous identified non-conformities, whether the gaps have been filled, and also the CAPAs that were raised before, whether their loops were closed. So this follows by conducting an opening meeting. So in this opening meeting, you have to present your audit plan as an auditor or the auditing team and introduce your auditors. And in this, you are supposed to align the documents, access, and clarify the confidential clauses. So you have to define everything clearly. Yeah, just make everything clear that this is what we are going to do, and assure your auditees that this is the scope of your audit, and we are not going to endanger your confidentiality matters, because these auditors also are trained on confidentiality, because we know medical laboratory systems are according to regulations, they have signed confidentiality agreements for the purposes of their clients, the clients they handle. This is a continuation of the audit process. We perform documented and recorded review. Various documents are audited, such as SOPs, validation records, test reports are audited, equipment logs, training records. The documents are checked for accuracy, completeness, and alignment with applicable laboratory procedures and regulations. So as auditors are coming into the auditing process, the laboratories also have to be aware of these points to check. They need to have a checklist on what is supposed to be done. This checklist does not mean that they are prepared only for the audit, but these checklists are there to make sure that they comply to everything, and it's a constant reminder on what they're supposed to practice, even when they are not facing an audit. The processes are observed, and people are interviewed. The staff are interviewed. On-site observations of lab workflows to ensure procedural compliance is done. Also, competency interviews are done to assess staff their adherence to laboratory procedures and their understanding of quality practices. Identification and recording of findings is done. Documents, findings, and capture supporting audit evidence, classify findings, and refer to applicable clauses for the requirement of standards violated on each findings. So each finding is marked according to the performance. And these standards are usually available. There are books of references that I will share at the end of the presentation. So after the audit processes, the team has to conduct closing meetings. And in this, they need to summarize audit findings, their classifications, and associated risks. They need to confirm understanding with auditees and present preliminary recommendation to corrective action, suggestions, discussions, timelines, and responsibilities for response. Then later, they will issue the audit report. And in this, they prepare and distribute a detailed scope, methodology, and findings, supporting documents for this audit, and required corrective actions. These include assigned responsibilities and due dates. So they also give directives on what needs to be done and what needs to be done when up to this and this timelines. And also all supporting documents on the audit findings are put there. The methodologies is clearly explained how they audited your facility, the scope in which they audited your facility, and all the corrective actions, if at all they are there. They will also give you the deadlines. So later on, there will be a follow-up. After the deadlines have elapsed, they will verify the implementation and the effectiveness of corrective actions by following up with CAPA closure. Then that process will follow a re-audit. This re-audit is to spot check what is necessary in case of major observations. So now this information now is to the auditee. Now the facilities that are being audited now. How can they get ready for an audit? A laboratory audit readiness requires organizations to, first of all, maintain an up-to-date quality management system. They have to adhere to internal procedures. They have to conduct internal audits. They have to train staff and track corrective actions. They have to organize documentation accessibly. So there are two formats that are usually used in audits. We have on-site audits and also remote audits. We're going to look at the two. Each audit format is selected based on the risk, audit scope, accessibility, and regulatory requirements. And also some audits may be hybrid. They may take on-site audit and also remote audits. On-site audits, as the word says, they involve auditors visiting the laboratory to perform a tour on the facilities. They observe everything and record their findings in person. On-site audits are typically performed on initial certification, regulatory inspections, suppliers qualifications, or when physical verification is essential. Remote audits are conducted through digital means such as video conferencing, screen sharing, and document portals. Auditors assess compliance by viewing electronic records, interviewing staff online, and observing procedures via live video. Remote audits are often used for surveillance audits, follow-ups, or during travel restrictions. So surveillance audits, the audits are done when there are constant checks whether everything is going on well. Sometimes they can be announced or not announced. So these are surveillance. They can take you off guard. And this one are made to ensure compliance or checks and balances. So internal audits. Remember two major audits that we have talked about, internal and external audits. Now we are going to look at internal audits. Later, this will follow by external audits. Internal audits are systematic evaluations conducted by personnel who are independent of the area being audited or qualified external contractors to verify compliance with internal procedures and applicable requirements. The objectives of internal audits are to detect non-conformities and ensure adherence to standards operating procedures and drive continuous improvement. These are done internally in the laboratory system or in the facility to ensure that you are constantly checking your operations, your processes, whether they are in line or they are in tandem with the standards that you have ascribed to. Internal audits are key requirements under international standards. The categories of internal audits are listed below. We have routine internal audits. Routine internal audits evaluate compliance with the laboratory quality management systems, QMS, and applicable ISO 15189 2022 and ISO IEC 17025 2017. The internal audits are executed by trained impartial laboratory employee or internal audit team to ensure objectivity and consistency in the laboratory audit practices. So we have also audits. Internal audits also involve self-inspections. Self-inspections examine elements such as laboratory personnel training, conditions of the laboratory, and the equipment and calibration. They also check on controlled documentation. Internal audits also check on data integrity and analytical testing workflows. Self-inspections are conducted at the laboratory-defined frequencies based on the quality system and that are performed by qualified personnel, independent of the inspected area. Observations and deviations are documented with corrective actions linked directly to the findings. There are also mock audits in addition to self-inspections. Mock audits are preparatory laboratory audits replicating the conditions of actual inspections from regulatory authorities or certification bodies. Yeah, these audits also are in preparation to external audits that we'll talk about later. Mock audits are typically facilitated by third-party auditors or consultants to identify compliance gaps and also enhance audit preparedness and train laboratory staff under realistic conditions. So these are mimicking realistic conditions for external auditing process preparation. Although there is no fixed schedule, mock audits are usually timed ahead of a key milestone such as certification renewals. Let's say you're approaching the end of the year and the audits are coming in a week's time, that's in December. You have to conduct mock audits to ensure that there are constant checks to fill in the gaps and make sure that everything is done in tandem with the regulatory compliance so that you don't fail in the coming audits. For self-inspections, these are regular throughout the period in which you have been under checks. So we have external audits, which is the second category of audits. External audits are formal assessments conducted by parties outside the laboratory to evaluate compliance with regulatory contractual or accreditation requirements. The objective of external audit is to independently verify that the laboratory meets applicable requirements, provides valid results, maintains data integrity, and efficient quality management systems. External audits involve also regulatory audits. Regulatory audits can be audits that are in compliance with the following bodies: US Food and Drug Administration, US CLIA, Clinical Laboratory Improvement Amendment Acts, or Clinical Laboratory Improvement Authority, under clinical laboratory settings. We have also inspection of laboratories involved in clinical trials, focusing on ensuring compliance with GCP standards. We also have KMLTTB Kenya, which can also involve itself in regulatory audits. KMPDC, especially for doctors, can involve itself in regulatory audits. So these are usually the regulatory bodies that are checking for compliance. Regulatory audits are typically risk-based, occurring on scheduled cycle every 2 or 3 years, but may be triggered by certain incidences, or the frequency of such incidences, which are also critical quality issues. So if your facilities makes a certain major, encounters a certain major incident that may warrant serious inspection, they will come in. It doesn't matter whether it's one after 1 month or 2, they will come in and do an inspection. There are also certification audits. Certification audits are there to ensure compliance with standards like ISO 1518922 and issue you with a certification, which is usually a mark of quality of your services. Certification audit follows a structured accreditation cycle, starting with an audit and followed by periodic recertification audits, typically every 3 years, to verify continued conformity. The clients usually follow a defined audit frequency schedule, typically ranging from 1 to 3 years, depending on the supplier's risk and performance. We have 4 course audits. The 4 course audits are scheduled external assessment triggered by complaints or out of specification results. These ones are similar to the audits that follow major incidences. They also look at deviations or non-conformities. For 4 course audits focus on root cause investigation and risk management and CAPA implementation. They are conducted usually by regulators or clients. 4 course audits ensure lab quality investigation and CAPA processes are adequate, and that the lab operations align with expected regulatory requirements. Surveillance audits are scheduled reviews by accreditation bodies between full certification cycles. Surveillance audits monitor continued compliance with accreditation standards such as ISO, IC 17025 or ISO 15189, or JCIA, or SANAS, and many others. These can be unannounced or announced. So they are constant checks. Surveillance means constant checks, constant regular checks. They are usually performed annually or biannually to ensure the laboratory remains in conformity throughout the certification period. So how do you ensure that your laboratory audit ready? You need to maintain up-to-date laboratory quality management system, as I've stated before. The equipment calibration processes. You need to check whether your deviation, there are deviations from the standards or non-conformance reporting. Do you report your non-conformance? Do you have training matrices? Do you have a strong QMS foundation that supports strong data integrity and laboratory compliance? That's what you need to ask yourself. These are things that you need to ask yourself as you operate in your facility. You need also to follow up SOP and internal procedures consistently to ensure laboratory audits success. If audit is scheduled, all staff must adhere to approved SOP and promptly report any deviation or non-conformance. Procedure adherence supports regulatory inspections, readiness, and overall quality assurance. So ensure that you implement EQMS with audit management capabilities. So make sure, because we live in a current dispensation of being tech savvy. The idea is we move with the current trend of computerization and technology, so that we are able to manage our operations well and operations efficiently. We need to check our workflows and audit trails. So the system should enable us, should support our audit checks and balances, should support audit checklists, CAPA, workflows, and audit trails. The system should also allow real-time access to past and upcoming audit schedules, findings, and corrective actions. So you should tailor your systems in such a way you're able to check issues easily and check the trails, the workflows, the implementation of all these processes and the previous findings and all issues that pertains to quality management should be addressed by your system very well. Without electronic support, we are always following analog systems. Things will be difficult, especially when dealing with the current trends of technology. Other people are moving very fast in compliance with even artificial intelligence. And when you are left behind, even with the machines that you are working with, you'll find it very difficult even to manage your quality systems in your laboratory. So we should move in tandem with electronic systems or quality management systems so that we can work efficiently. So that even where there are recommendations, checks for compliance, we can easily check them because maybe the system can prompt us on certain issues that we've not implemented. Record keeping is also key. because keeping documentation complete and accessible is also very important, because the system for audit should be actually be kept in our systems, not as a separate document or document altogether. It should be engraved in the system itself, so that when you open your system, maybe in doing all other operations, including checking results, keying in results, authenticating results, inputting your QA data, QC data, EQA data, in IQC data, you are able to check for compliance there and there, not going to different files in your computer that are not accessible. Here, you are supposed to have an access to test records, calibration standards, validation portal for your results. The trading matrices are also there for you to access them. You can access your documentation, and you can easily retrieve them without any difficulty, because this is an area where we are moving away from manual documentation to virtual documentation or electronic documentation. So using like now, when we talk about ISO 15189 2022, which allows us to move from manual documentation to electronic documentation, which has been allowed through this ISO system, then it means that in future, to be very difficult for us to operate under manual system of filing or manual system of documentation. But also, we should understand that both are allowed, but it's important for us to understand that it's good for us to adapt the electronic systems because of the efficiency and the tendency to move towards the current dispensation of computerized world and artificial intelligence. Then, to ensure laboratory audit readiness, we need to conduct regular internal audits. We need to train staff on roles and audit expectations. So even as those who are on the ground working in the lab, we should train ourselves on audit processes. And this is what we are learning today. We need to establish corrective actions and also tracking. We need to track all our nonconformities. We track our deviations, we track our complaints, and address all this. We need to track even past audit findings through a structured CAPA form, corrective and prevention form. This system should be well elaborated in our systems. We should also confirm closure and evaluate effectiveness to ensure regulatory compliance. And these ones should be reinforced in ongoing laboratory audit readiness. So these are things that have to keep us on toes in order for us to remain standing, especially in compliances. So we are going to look at the importance of laboratory audits. Laboratory audits ensure regulatory compliance. That has been well explained. Laboratory audits, they improve data integrity because of that nature that you are always put on toes to ensure that you have a structured documentation, constant reviews, and you're able to trace your documentation very well. And the gaps have been closed. Yeah. So you strengthen your data accuracy and also your reproducibility of whatever documentation that is there or whatever results that are there. So this also promotes accountability, enhances quality control, Laboratory audits enhance quality control through evaluation of adherence to SOPs and validated testing methods. They ensure reliability of analytical outcomes because audits have to constantly check for the entire audit period whether you've been conforming. So when you make mistakes today, make sure that those mistakes will be known maybe in 6 months to come. So what will this information trigger you to do? It will trigger you to be always on check so that you don't make mistakes today, mistakes that will force you out of certification in the coming 6 months. So you have always to be compliant. This also enhances accountability. In these processes, you have to make people accountable. You don't, as maybe a QA manager, a QA in charge, or maybe a laboratory manager, you are not left alone to ensure that the audit processes are up to date. Give people responsibility. You can task staff A to be responsible for data integrity. Of course, everyone should ensure that there is enhanced quality control. There should be someone who also checks for implementation of all these activities. And this one, from time to time, it should rotate among staff members so that everybody moves in tandem with compliance. Regular audits support continuous improvement and also facilitate certification and customer trust. Yes, when all is said and done in laboratory audits, be sure that you are going to be recertified. So there are challenges also associated with the laboratory audits because it's not an easy thing. Yes, it's not easy because of resource intensiveness. Laboratory audits require significant allocation of personnel, time, and documentation efforts during unannounced or extensive audit resources. Allocation can lead to serious operational disruptions. Audits are also stressful on staff because some of these activities are unannounced. Auditors come, they need to check things, they need to interview you. You are busy working in your procedures, you're busy working on the bench, busy reporting, busy because there are routine labs that where lab techs are also phlebotomists. So you are constantly disrupted and you might make mistakes. It's a stressful situation. Some people, so you need to always be prepared to work under pressure so that this one doesn't affect your overall lab performance. So there is a risk of negative findings. Detection of non-conformities during laboratory audit may necessitate corrective actions, threatened accreditation status, and harm lab's reputation or client trust. Maybe a client came 2 weeks ago and your certificate hung proudly in your lab facility. Then later on, they don't find it. What happens? Or they hear from other sources that you failed in your accreditation. What happens if even with your clients, especially those who refer tests to you? What happens? So these are questions that we need to ask ourselves. So there is a risk of negative findings. But we should understand that in contrast to addressing these issues proactively through internal quality processes, this will allow for measured strategic improvement and maintaining customer trust. Laboratory audits also are costly. Yes, this moves in resource intensiveness, because external audits and the associated follow-up procedures may incur substantial costs. The cost of non-compliance, especially for facility or equipment-related findings, can be particularly burdensome for small or mid-sized labs with limited resources. Yes, the auditors can recommend for you to invest maybe in staff, that is laboratory personnel, investing in certain kinds of equipment, investing maybe in the laboratory system that moves in tandem with their regulations or for you to be compliant. Some equipment can be phased out because of lack of conformity to standards. So this comes with a cost. There is also this angle in which we can look at this overall over-reliance on checklist approach. Some organization or labs may focus and over-rely on checklists. They focus audits narrowly through checklist-based methodology. They risk overlooking deeper systemic procedural flows. I cite an example of this, that you're preparing for an EQA and you don't want to fail. That time when you are holding an EQA is when you have to make sure that your calibrations are right. Your QCs are close to the targets. But in other days, you rarely keep your QC records. You rarely check the trends and shifts. You just moving on autopilot. So this is what we call a narrow way of looking at things. So let us not prepare for audits on this narrow way of checklists, that this one is required, we have to do this so that we comply. No, just check on the overall picture. When you check on the overall picture, you'll be able to do it without effortlessly, because you will have been accustomed to doing what is right, even if no one is seeing you. Lastly, I will share laboratory audit reference documents. We have 42 CFR Part 493 for CLIA. That's Clinical Laboratory Improvement Authority, under US CLIA Amendment Acts. For clinical laboratories performing human diagnostic testing, requirements include proficiency testing, personnel qualifications, and quality systems, including quality control and record retention. These regulations also are key even if they are under the US, they are key for us to implement. When we implement such, even ISO 15189 will be very easy for us to be able to implement. Others can be CLSI, that's Clinical and Laboratory Standards Institute, which stipulates clearly the 12 quality systems essentials. There is also good laboratory practice, which are very essential. And this one covers elements such as specimen handling, equipment calibration, data management, and quality assurance and reporting to ensure trial data integrity. There is also ISO 17043/2023, which specifies requirements for proficiency testing for providers. So even, you see, our proficiency testing providers have regulations and they have to comply. Apart from assisting us to comply, for them also there is someone who checks them. In conclusion, the success of laboratory audit depends on 4 core principles: adequate preparation, precise execution, insightful documentation, and productive follow-up. Thank you. This is the end of our presentation today.
Thank you very much, Agri. I think it was a very, very wonderful presentation and quite insightful. And I'm sure that members have been able to gain and also learn 1 or 2 things from this presentation. And maybe at this point, colleagues, I would want us to send in our questions or concerns. And maybe I can start agree with the first concern here from Evans Otieno. Yes. Is it safe to say that once accredited, always accredited? Thank you, Evans, for the question.
Yes, if I can answer that. When once accredited, you are not always accredited. You have to maintain that accreditation. Over a certain period, auditors will come back to inspect you, audit you, to ensure that whether you've met the compliance standards for you to continue being recertified. When they do the audit and you pass the audit and that loop is closed, the closure of that loop, you will renew your certification or your accreditation. It's a smooth way to renew your accreditation. But if those gaps are not closed, then it means that they will not renew your accreditation, they will not recertify you, so you will fall out of favor until you comply. Is when you'll move into another cycle of accreditation or recertification. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Agri. That was a job well done. And I want to just appreciate what our members have written here. Many of them are giving you accolades. Steve Kimachu saying nice presentation. Elisha Choriot saying a great job. And team, I think for sure Agri has done quite a wonderful job. And you can even put there a sign, either a thumbs up, or you can clap, you can show your reaction regarding this presentation. Now, I can see a lot of concerns regarding CPD activities. And colleagues, I don't speak for KMLTB, and maybe some of these concerns, you can address them to KMLTB. I think they can better be handled there. But I think the guidance we received was that CPD activities for the year 2025, that is CPD eligible activities, will be ending by the 30th of this month. And we are waiting if there will be another communication from KMLTB. So in case you have any concerns regarding that, you can always contact them. so that you can be well guided. Otherwise, I can see many of you are still asking issues on CPDs. And once again, I want to say that this session is KMLTB accredited, and therefore you just input your correct details, and if you'll be eligible, we shall be able to upload your KMLTB, your points on the KMLTB portal. Now, once again, I want to say that for those of us who may still want more activities, I think as LMSK, we have another series of webinars next week, and you can always log in. That is on Monday. We shall have a webinar on Monday, on Tuesday, on Wednesday, and on Thursday. Next week, we shall have 4 webinars. So in case you will still be interested, you can always log in to get, to just join us. Otherwise, there's a question from Stephen Moreidi, and he's asking, in case the accreditation of the lab is taken away, will the whole process be repeated to get it back? Agree?
Thank you for that question. It's a good question. Yeah. Now, when you've fallen out of favor from an accreditation process that you failed, maybe there are standards that you failed to meet, the auditing body or the this is now the accreditation body that's sending a team of auditors to audit you to check for compliance. In your compliance, maybe you've fallen below certain marks or certain points. They will refer you they'll point out the non-conformances. These non-conformances are for you to read, understand, and follow up for corrective and preventive action. So it's a process. So you have to make sure that you comply. You comply with all the recommendations, and they will follow up with a re-audit after that timeline. They have given you lapses. Maybe they have given you 1 month to conform to certain standards. Of course, they will follow after that 1 month and come and re-audit. So if there are items that are not resolvable, maybe items associated with gross non-conformances, like now you always failed in your external quality assurance. Your EQAs are not even, the records are not traceable. You've never performed EQ, the internal quality assurance programs. Your equipment are not up to standards. Your procedures, you don't have SOPs. Then it means that you don't meet the certification requirement. There are times that you'll fall out of favor completely and you lose your accreditation. Until that time, when you start implementing all the standards that are required, you start counting down the line. And when you feel by a certain, it's like now you'll be beginning afresh. But now this will take a period. They will give recommendations whether if you comply to this and these standards after 1 year period, will come and audit you. If we found you to have followed all the regulatory requirements within the span of that 1 year, we will recertify you or we will reaccredit you. That is what it means by completely failing in your accreditation with the gross findings, especially in your because of your non-conformances. But now, if there are minor conformances, you will only be told that you do this corrective and preventive action, and they will follow up and do an audit. If you pass that repeat audit to check. That will come for specifically those non-conformances that they had pointed out. If you pass them, they will recertify you or accredit you. So those are the two ways. Thank you.
Thank you, Agree, for that. I want to say that was ably answered. I can read a comment. This is from okay, Shem Nyasende. I think he's commenting on the initial question. He's saying, nice presentation. You must maintain your accreditation, certification. Not that once you are accredited or satisfied, always certified or accredited. I think sure that is the Back to you, Agree, if you have your closing remarks.
Yes, thank you. I really appreciate for this platform. It's good. I really appreciate for you having me. We'll continue to share the knowledge that we have so that we can empower our fellow colleagues. And again, whatever we do, especially in medical lab sciences, let's know that we are doing it for humanity and we are saving lives. So let's always check on compliances, even if we are not being audited. Let's always maintain the standards so that at least we can say that the job is well done in every day that we participate in our medical lab practice. So with those remarks, I will have to say that be blessed, each and every one of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Agree for that. I think there are many concerns on the chat box, but for sure it was quite an informative presentation. And as always, these sessions are usually also broadcasted live on YouTube. And you can always go to LMSK YouTube page for your reference to these presentations, either now or in the future. And also at this point, I also want to take this opportunity to just thank you for always allowing us to bring you these sessions. And I'm hoping that we learn and we continually learn together. At this point, I want to also ask you that we have a dinner for all medical lab professionals in the country. And this dinner will be happening at Pride in Westlands Luxury and Boutique Hotel. And I want this opportunity on behalf of Lab Medicine Society of Kenya to invite all of you from wherever you are, that you can always find time, travel, to meet all the stakeholders in the lab. And I want to take this opportunity to also shout out to some of our partners who are going to make this event be very successful. And I want to shout this to ChemLabs for being a very, very good partner with us. And you can always find time and come and see what they have. I also want this opportunity to give a shout out to Intermedical Limited. They support lab products. Thank you for being a good and a wonderful partner in this. I also want to shout out to Keton Scientific and many other organizations that are partnering with us to bring this very, very memorable event. Otherwise, take your time. If you are interested in this event, find the registration either on our WhatsApp groups, and also this session will be KMLTB accredited, and it will attract CPD points. Otherwise, thank you so much, and see you on Monday. Thank you once again.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.